Coming to you live from Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City. Welcome. You're in the sports wagering zone, whatever time zone you happen to be in, whether it's out on the coast, the left coast, the right coast, whichever one you're in. Welcome to the show. We're coming to you live right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, as well as most of your major podcast platforms such as Apple or Google or even iHeartRadio. You name it, Spotify, we're there. We're easy to find any time of the day or night. So welcome to the show. It's Thursday. It's the day before the NFL preseason starts up again on Friday. So we're going to take a few minutes and see what Chris Andrews over at the one of the sports books is interested in doing and in talking about. He's over there at South Point. He's the sports book director. So, he comes up with some notes and thoughts and ideas that he wants to share with us. And of course, we want to share that with you so that you can kind of put it in together with your betting situation as to, whatever system you're using, try to help you become a winner. That's the whole purpose of the show. We want you to be ahead of the game once the season comes to an end. And of course, we do have 3 games on tap today as far as baseball is concerned. Baseball's still going on, whether you like it or not. Giants against the Mets, the Yankees against the A's, Kansas City against Seattle. Those are the 3 games we're going to look up close and looking at the line movement and trying to determine which direction the pros are going, let you know where they're going, kind of let you know what they've done over the past few days so you can see if there's any trend in one direction or another. So that's the really main topics of discussion for today as far as the sports wagering zone is concerned. And of course, we always start each show by talking about things that happened yesterday as far as betting was concerned in sports. Well, again, there's only one major sport that's in operation right now, and of course, that's Major League Baseball. And what a game this was. The Dodgers, a minus 145, beat the Padres 5-3 in 16 innings, went into early Thursday. The game ended at 1 o'clock or 4 a.m., okay, 1 a.m. Pacific time, 4 a.m. Eastern time, of course. And it's the longest game since Major League Baseball instituted runner on second, the extra inning rule. The game pushed on for 8 runs. The bad push for underbettors as it was 1-1 entering into the 15th inning. The Orioles are plus 187. Beat the Angels 10-6 to snap their 19-game losing streak. And, of course, we're also going to go back and talk about that Dodgers-Padres game in a little more detail, kind of tell you how some people kind of missed the boat on it. Other people did very, very well. The favorites led 9-5 yesterday. The unders went 6-5-3. So the favorites now lead 59.5% of the time. They are in the win column as far as Major League Baseball is concerned right from the beginning of the season. The overs are a little over 50%. So that's kind of the story as far as what happened in baseball. But I just want to take a few minutes and talk about the Dodgers-Padres game because, in all the stories about bad beat stories, okay, and we call bad beat is when, things don't work out exactly right. Major League Baseball, you don't see too much of this going on there. Bettors, they tend to remember that Belk Bowl, remember back in 2012, and in 2013, the New Mexico Bowl, the Fail Mary with the replacement referees. Every time a college kid fouled with the game out of reach and the spread hanging in the balance. And of course, those NBA half court heaves that never seem to work out when you've got that team. Okay. So Major League Baseball, well, they added a doozy to the Bad Beat Hall of Fame last night. Now, fortunately for most of you bettors, the Bad Beat wasn't a loss, rather a push on the total of 8. And again, this would change depending on where you are wagering. We're talking about Las Vegas numbers here. However, you look at it this way: a bad beat for you is one that does end up helping somebody else. And there were early bettors that managed to get that opening line of 7.5 as runs scored and take the over for the Los Angeles Dodgers against that game against the Padres. Now, that number wasn't around long, but there were some 7.5s that appear to have no shot as the game went into the 15th inning, tied at 1-1. So you're sitting there with 7.5 over, okay, and then it's the 15th inning. You're at 1-1, and it's the longest game in the current Ghost Runner era, as they call it. The teams combined to go 7 for 51 with men in scoring position, with 4 of those 7 hits in the 15th and the 16th innings, to show you how strange this game really was. Now, Drake Cronenworth scored on an infield single in the second inning. Will Smith hit a solo home run in the 8th, and Padres starter Blake Snell got an out for the first time in the 8th inning since July 7th, 2018. That was it for the regular scoring. That's all that happened. But even with the man automatically placed on second base to begin every inning from the 10th inning through the 14th, neither team could break through. In the 15th, the Dodgers got RBI singles from Billy McKinney and Trey Turner. The Padres came back in the 15th with Fernando Tatis Jr.'s 2-run home run, tying the game once again, now at 3-3. Now, you totals bettors watch in horror as A.J. Pollock's 2-run home run to lead off the 16th flew deep into the San Diego night to give the Dodgers that 5-3 lead. And at least the push held for most of the people out there, with 1, 2, and 3 innings from Shane Green, who lowered his ERA to 8.84 with last night's scoreless inning that he pitched. Now, all told, it's this way. The game, which lasted 5 hours and 49 minutes, wound up a 5-3 final in favor of the Dodgers. The over-bettors that got the absolute best of the number had the most improbable of wins with that 7.5. The vast majority of the bettors on either side of the total pushed it to the 8, and anybody that got a rogue under 8.5 scored a win in spite of ending as a tie. Now, remember, most of these bad beats, they really underscore how important it is getting the best line possible. In this particular situation, it's a great thing to look at. Those that did correctly, you guys who did make and you projected the move up to 8 when the line opened at 7.5, avoided this total calamity that occurred. Now, a lot of times, a bad beat ends up falling close to the number, but those that are holding the best of it can come away with really unscathed because they're in a push situation. So it was there for a short time. It was virtually impossible to grab for most of the players. Still, it's yet another indication of why trying your hardest to get the best of the numbers is going to help you in the long run. We've been stressing this for 5 years. Do business with more than one sportsbook. Get the best number you can. This situation really shows you what can happen over a long period of time. You got to be stressed out over that entire period. Bettors of all bankroll sizes, whether it's $50 or $50,000, no matter what skill level you're at, okay? Whatever you're doing, always try to get the best line you possibly can. Now, this could be the most recent example, but I can tell you for sure from past experience, it's not the last time that you're going to hear about it because it's going to happen, and hopefully it doesn't happen to you. So that happened yesterday. Of course, that was one of the games that the pros picked. They picked the Dodgers over San Diego, so that was a win for them as far as betting the team on the money line was concerned. And of course, they were the under for that game just as well. So let's take our first break. Again, we take 3 breaks in the show. Let's get the first one out of the way. Each one is of 1 minute duration. When we come back, we're going to look at 3 games on tap for tonight, check the line movement, see which way the pros are going, let you know what it is. So we'll be back into the zone in 1 minute. Here we go. Welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. Break is over. Time to get back into business. Now, of course, it took a while to kind of explain everything that happened. And, perhaps some of you guys may have been bored by listening to it. But you know what? The bottom line of that story I just got finished telling you is that the importance of getting the best line you possibly can. And the only way you can do that is by dealing with more than one sports book. You've got to have an account in at least 3. Okay, if you can have 4, again, sometimes you're limited because of, whatever state you have to be doing business in. They may only have 3 or they may only have 2. But whatever it is, try to get as many sports books involved in your situation as best as you can. That half a point, whether it's an NFL half a point, or if it's even on a money line, instead of laying 150, you're going to be laying maybe 135 because you could get a better line there. Big difference, especially if you happen to lose that game. But anyway, that's the story there. Forget about that. We're going to keep reminding you about it throughout the season, and hopefully eventually you'll all be paying attention and do the right thing. Again, it's for your benefit, okay? Anyway, here's where the money's flowing in today's games as far as baseball is concerned. We do have 12 games. 12 baseball games to be played today, and we're going to look at 3 of them. First of all, at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, the New York Mets against the San Francisco Giants. The Giants are 82-44. The Mets are 61-65. Now, the Giants have taken the first 2 games. They won the opener 8-0. They were plus 115 road dogs, and then they won again yesterday 3-2 as plus 100 road dogs. Sometimes people just don't get it, okay? The Giants have now won 4 straight, while the Mets, who are really in a real free fall, failed to win just 2-10. 2 out of their last 12 games is all they've won so far. Now, in tonight's last game, San Francisco comes in with their lefty, Alex Wood. He's 10-4 with a 4.11 ERA. And the Mets, they come back with their right-hander, Carlos Carrasco. Hasn't won yet this year, has 2 losses. He's 8.82 as an ERA. So, once again, as we look at the line at open, the Giants were a minus 118 road favorite this time on the minus side. The Mets on the plus side, plus 113 as a home dog. Now, the pros aren't going to outsmart themselves. They very rarely do. Okay, especially in this one game. They're fading the Mets as best as they can. They're backing the best team in baseball on a short chalk price. Again, when you're looking at a minus 118 with a team like San Francisco, the Giants, who are really one of the best teams in the league, that's almost like a bargain. The Mets are 20 and 33 as a dog so far this season. Now, what happened was once the pros got on the Giants, it went up from a minus 118 up to minus 125, which still really isn't bad on the money line when you see the team that they're playing against. The Giants are 52 and 25 whenever they're a favorite this season. San Francisco is 59 and 28 when they're batting against right-handed pitchers. Meanwhile, New York only 14 and 25 against lefties. Now, we could also be looking at a higher scoring game in this game. The total is 8.5. Not only that, but the over is juiced up to minus 115 on the line. Now, what this means, it may possibly move up to 9. Now, we've talked about this in the past. In the future, we'll explain how that kind of works. You have 8.5, you juice to 115. Once it gets to 120 or 125, what's going to happen is the number will jump from 8.5 to 9 so that the juice can come right back down to 110. Okay? The forecast calls for ideal hitting conditions. Temperatures in the high 80s, 7 to 10 mile per hour winds blowing out to center field. If you've ever been in New York, when that wind's blowing out, it is blowing out. The home plate umpire is Adrian Johnson. You know what? Historically, he's favored the overs most of the time, about 55% of the time. So in that first game in New York, San Francisco Giants over the New York Mets, the pros are on the Giants and they're on the over in this particular game. Another New York team on the dais, 9:40, 9:45, the New York Yankees at Oakland against the A's. The Yankees are 74 and 52. The A's are 70 and 57. Now, this is a non-division game, and it's really very pivotal for both of these teams because they want to keep their playoff aspirations alive. The Yankees, they're now in the first wild card spot in the American League, while the Athletics are a game and a half in back of the Red Sox for that second spot. Now, in tonight's opener, the Yankees come out with their right-hander, Jameson Taillon. He's 8-4 with a 3.94 ERA. And the Athletics tap their right-hander, James Caprillion. He's 7-4 with a 3.25 ERA. Now, as we look at the line in this game, it opened with the Yankees listed as a minus 125 road favorite. Oakland is a plus 115 home dog, all on the open. Now, the public is all over the Yankees. I mean, they're hot. They're red hot. They're riding an 11-game winning streak right now. However, despite all this lopsided support that we've seen on the Yankees, the number dropped. It went from being a minus 125 to a minus 110. What this means is it's called a sharp reverse line movement, and it's on the A's as a short home dog, dropping from plus 115 down to plus 105 on the money line. Now, non-division home teams that get a steam of 10 cents or more are at almost 61% as a win percentage so far this season. Oakland, they also have value. They're a contrarian home dog with a high total. The pros are eyeing the over in this one as well. The total opened at 8.5. The pro money pushed it up to 9. So the forecast out there in Oakland calls for a high in the 60s temperatures with 5 to 10 mile per hour winds also blowing out to dead center field. So between the Yankees and the Athletics, the general public, they love the Yankees, 11-game winning streak. That's where they're all going. On the other side, the pros, they say, oh, hold on. Oakland Athletics, that's the team we like in this particular game, as well as the over. So that's the story on those two games. We have one more game to talk about. That's Kansas City against Seattle. And of course, we're going to take our second break right now, get that out of the way. And when we come back, that's the game we're going to be talking about. And also, just to give you an idea, besides that, we're also going to bring you up to date as to how the little system or method is going. And then after that, we're going to be talking NFL preseason football. So just a reminder, you're in the sports wagering zone. And as usual, we just take a break for 1 minute. So if that's the case, we'll be back in 60 seconds. And welcome back. Here we go. We're back in the sports wagering zone, coming to you live on the I 95 Sports and Entertainment Network, live from the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado. Yes, we are. Glad to see that the opening game of the season for Denver and the Giants is going to be held right here in Denver. So I'll have an opportunity to see my lovely blue team come into town, and hopefully they come out as a winner, but we'll see what happens, and we'll talk about it as that time approaches. So anyway, we've been talking about baseball because, that's what's going on right now. Baseball is still king, and it's going to be kind of drifting back and back a little more as we get closer and closer to the college season, which kind of starts to open up this weekend. And of course, we got the pro season that starts up within a couple of weeks. So anyway, in case you tuned in late, we talked about two games so far as baseball is concerned, as far as where the pros are going. San Francisco against the New York Mets. In this game, pros are on the San Francisco Giants, and they're also on the over as far as number of runs scored. Wind is blowing out from home plate to center field out in New York. Meanwhile, the Oakland A's are hosting the New York Yankees. And in that particular game, the general public, they just love the New York Yankees. 11 straight wins. They're pouring all their money on there. In the meantime, the pros are saying, oh, hold on a minute here. We like the Oakland Athletics. We like the underdog in this game. Get some plus money involved. And once again, the over is up to 9 as far as number of runs scored is up to 9 right now. And there you also have winds blowing out to center field. So the pros are on the A's and the over in that game. One game left to talk about. That's around 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. Kansas City Royals in Seattle. Kansas City is 56-70. The Mariners are 69-58. Now, these two teams, of course, they're non-division teams, and if you look at them, they're at opposite ends of that playoff spectrum. The Royals, they're out of contention. Okay, they own the 4th worst record in the American League. On the other side, the Mariners are just 2.5 games back of the second wild card spot. So tonight's series is very important. Kansas City comes in with their right-hander, Brad Keller. He's 8-12 with a 5.43 ERA. And Seattle comes in with their left-hander, Yusei Kikuchi, who's 7-7 with a 4.22 ERA. Now, as we look at the line in this game, it opened with the Mariners, a minus 146 home favorite, and the Royals a plus 133 road dog. Those were the opens. Now, the pros seem to think that this line's a little low. So they got down really hard on Seattle. And what happens? They steamed the Mariners up from that 146 up to 168 on the money line, on the minus side, of course. Now, non division home favorites are at almost 62% so far this season as a win percentage. Now, if they're in the sweet spot range, which is between 150 and 175, okay, because they're in there right now, but before game time, they may be above 175, then they improve to almost 64% as a win percentage. Now, this is also what we call a schedule spot advantage for the Mariners. They were off yesterday. They didn't play. The Royals played the Astros. And keep another stat in mind. Rested favorites that come off a day off against a team that played back to back are at almost 62% as a win percentage this season. The Royals are 24 and 39 on the road. The Mariners are 37 and 25 at home. The pros are leaning on the under in this game. The total is at 8.5, with the under being juiced up to minus 120. So you know very shortly that number is going to go to 8. There's no doubt about it. When you see the juice up that high, it's just a matter of time where they make that adjustment from 8.5 down to 8. Okay. So in this game between the Mariners and the Royals, the pros are on the Seattle Mariners and are also on the under in this game. And just to go over the first two games once again, real quickly, the Mets against the Giants. Pros are on the Giants, and they're on the over in this game because out there at Citi Field, their wind is blowing out to center field, out to the outfield, and the Yankees against Oakland, same situation. The wind is blowing out, okay? Pros are on Oakland, who is the underdog in that game. The general public, they're all on that New York Yankees on that 11-game winning streak. And also Kansas City against Seattle. We know about that one. The pros are on the Seattle Mariners. But in that particular game, the pros are on the under in that game. So here's the story on what we did yesterday. We had 3 plays yesterday. We had Houston against Kansas City. That was a win. Had the White Sox against Toronto. That was a loss. But we had the big one, the big game last night that lasted throughout the morning, okay? You probably went to bed one way. Let's say if you went to bed and you had the over, and it was 7.5 or 8, whichever you got in at, okay? And you went to sleep, you think, there's no way I'm going to get back in this one. Then you wake up in the morning and you see that, hey, 7.5, I won, So the Dodgers did beat San Diego. That was the selection of the pros yesterday as well. Now, as we look back the day before, we had 3 plays as well. We had 2 winners and 1 loser. The day before that, we only had 2 plays, and they were both losses. And the day before that, we had 3 plays. We had 2 wins and 1 loss. Kind of give you an idea as to which direction their method is going. So far this season, we're up about, I would say, between 53.5 and 54% as far as win percentage goes. However, in the month of August, we're at 60%, almost at 60. It's 59.7 to be exact. You had 67 plays so far in the month of August. 40 of them came in as winners. So that's very close to 60%. So that's the story there. We're going to take our final break. And when we come back, we're going to take a look and see and hear about what Chris Andrews, who is the sportsbook director over at South Point in Las Vegas, some of his thoughts and ideas on the upcoming preseason games on tap for this week. So that's what we're going to talk about when we come back. And as usual, we're back in 1 minute. Hey, here we go again. Welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone, coming to you live from the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado, on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. Now, maybe listening on one of the podcast platforms such as Spotify or Apple or Google. So, anyway, welcome to the show. We really appreciate you listening to the show. Our numbers have really been moving really well, getting more and more listeners all the time. Glad to hear it. Again, if you are new, the primary purpose of the show is to help you to become a better handicapper. Do everything we can to try to help you in that respect. Not here to tell you who to bet on or how much to bet or things of that nature. Just kind of give you some tips, some thoughts and ideas, give you an idea as to which way the pros are going in a certain situation, and we kind of leave it up to you to make the final decision. So in the meantime, we're going to be talking about the NFL preseason because, this is a challenging week for the odds makers. That's what Chris Andrews says. He's the sportsbook director over at South Point, okay? And he says that none of them want to fall behind as far as information is concerned. They want to provide betting entertainment for their customers while simultaneously protecting the bottom line, because they're being watched by their bosses. So they're right in the middle. They want to make sure that they get all the information they can. They want to make sure they provide enough entertainment for the customers. At the same time, they got to be careful because they got to look at that bottom line and make sure that it's going in the right direction. So as Chris Andrews says, in this report, he says, as he takes you game by game through week 3 of the NFL preseason, you'll see that he moved some point spreads because of betting action at the South Point, while others that he moved because they needed to stay in sync with the overall market. So he had to make some moves because of the money coming into Vegas, and he had to be careful to make the overall moves at other parts of the country. The pros get information before the odds makers do. And he says he has to respect that pro money, that no matter where it's being bet, they have to respect it. And they do. There's no doubt about it. These pros, they know what they're doing. They do their homework, and everything. All these odds makers key off of these guys. So to begin with, Friday, August 27th, that's tomorrow, Indianapolis as a 2-point underdog. It's a 2-point favorite now against Detroit at 33.5 as being the over-under. Now, a big line move here was based on the betting action at South Point. Again, that's where he's working at. That's where he's going to be looked at. He opened Indianapolis as a 4-point favorite. The pros took the dog in this game, who was Detroit, at +4, and then of course they dropped it to 3.5, so they came in at 3.5. Then they dropped it to +3, and they took it again. So he still hasn't taken any Colts bets, even though the line is down to 2 points as a 2-point favorite. The pro money liked the Lions at +3 or more, but then they stopped betting once it got below that number 3 number. So no action yet on the total. He says if he doesn't mention a total, then that just means nothing of interest has really happened yet in that direction. Meanwhile, also Friday, you've got Philadelphia against the New York Jets, and the Philadelphia Eagles are 4-point favorite. Now, he says there's no early betting interest at all in this particular game. There's going to be plenty of talk about it in other games. So there's nothing going on as far as Philadelphia and the Jets are concerned, with the -4 being a 4-point favorite against Philadelphia. Now, Pittsburgh and Carolina. Now, they're a 4-point favorite with a 3.5 as an over-under. An opener of Carolina at -1 as a 1-point favorite has been bet all the way up to being a 4-point favorite. Now, Chris says he's surprised by this move. Apparently the pros aren't high on Pittsburgh reserve quarterback Dwayne Haskins. He's going to see a lot of action. There's no doubt about it. You regulars know that Chris is from Pittsburgh, so he watches the team closely, and Haskins has played, pretty good this month in his opinion. Now, there has been no buyback yet on the Steelers. He has to respect that lack of interest. Even after the move through the key number of 3, it went through 3 to being a 4-point favorite. He says he opened the total at 34 and a half. He's up a point on very little business to stay in line with the rest of the market. So Carolina, 4-point favorite, 35 and a half on the over under. One more game for Friday. Minnesota at Kansas City. Kansas City being a 4-point favorite with the over under being at 38. Now, he says that this is a good example of a game that he moved to keep up with the market. He opened it at 3.5 and 35. Even with very little betting action at South Point in this particular game, okay, he went up with the rest of the market to being a 4-point favorite and up to 38. He moved it from 35 to 38. He moved it from 3.5 to 4. Now, it was telling to him that early interest in Kansas City as a 3.5-point favorite was moving away from the key number of 3. Now, the thing about this is this. If the pros don't take that hook right away, the underdog probably isn't a good bet. So that's a good general rule. You should keep it in mind for college and pro football in the future. Understand something. Whenever the pros don't take that hook and they don't take it right away, the underdog probably isn't a good bet. So they're looking at Kansas City as being their choice. Now, again, like we said, that's a good rule to follow, especially in college football and pro football as well. So those are the 3 games that he made comment on coming up for tomorrow. He has some commentary on games on Saturday and on Sunday. And of course, we'll cover those tomorrow. No sense talking about that right now. There's quite a bit of information out there for you. I hope you take this information, put it to good use. If you have a system, we always tell you this, and you're happy with it, you're doing very well, everything is fine, you like it, it's doing well for you, you're ahead of this game at the end of each season, don't mess with it. You may want to tweak it somewhere, but don't make any big overall changes, regardless of what you hear anybody say. And you're going to hear a lot of chatter out there because we're getting closer and closer to the regular season starting up, and every sports station out in the country, you're going to have guys talking about betting because now you can, right? I remember 5 years ago, if I even mentioned the word betting, it was like, wow, what'd you say that for? Call it wagering. We had to make up all different words to try to make it more palatable so that we could sell the show to other stations. But now, hey, it's wide open. You watch ESPN, you watch Fox, you watch anywhere around. What do they talk about? They scroll numbers underneath telling you what the odds are, telling you their picks, their selections. So be very careful when that happens. The one rule of thumb that I generally have is I like watching on Sunday morning the pregame shows on either the AFL, NFL games, okay? But I'm only listening because I want to hear the latest news as far as injuries are concerned. Who's playing, who's not playing. I don't care who these guys pick. Just look at their numbers, their totals over the past few years. They're not doing all that great. You should follow most of them. You're going to be losing money. But it's important. The show is big as far as I'm concerned, because I want to hear who is going to be playing. Maybe they go to a stadium and you see it's starting to snow or starting to rain, things of that nature. Those are the things that will help you to become a better handicapper. Okay. Enough of a rant about that. So anyway, talking about the three games in baseball we talked about earlier, you got the Giants against the Mets. The pros like the Giants in that game. And of course, the Yankees against the A's. The Yankees are on an 11-game winning streak right now as we talk. And of course, the pros, they're not on the Yankees. The general public, they love the Yankees. They're flooding the market with their money. So the pros, they like the A's in that game. And finally, Kansas City at Seattle. The pros like Seattle in that game as well. So that's the story for today. It's Thursday. I want to thank you very much for listening. We always come to you live Monday through Friday, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, on Saturdays and Sundays, we're here at 9 a.m. Mountain Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So again, thanks for listening. I hope you have a really great Thursday. And of course, if you're going to be betting today, whether it's baseball or start laying your futures bets on the football games coming up tomorrow or Saturday or Sunday, I wish you the best of luck in that respect as well. So we'll be back again tomorrow. Once again, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. And, of course, I want to thank you very much for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow. Until then, have a great Thursday. And like I said, you'll have a great Thursday if you're betting and you win, and I hope you do. Goodbye, everybody.